Look around. This world is not as it ought to be. Division, disease, discrimination, things are not okay. But this is not how it was intended, and God was not okay with it. He had to make a way back from darkness to light, from death to life. So he dropped a man into this atmosphere, like an explosion of hope and like a billion fireworks lighting up the darkest night. He revealed the better way, the best way, the only way to truly live. He came to revive a dying world and divided cultures, to revive despairing hearts and desperate lives, to revive us all. Things are not okay. We need revival.
This world is not okay. Do you remember the first time you had that realization? And for some of you, maybe you're still waiting. I promise, don't worry, you'll have the realization sometime. But for the rest of us, can you think back to that moment in your life? For me, it was in 3rd grade. I'm not saying that nothing happened before that to show me the world wasn't perfect, but in 3rd grade, something really important happened. I was a new student in a brand new school. I just moved there, and I was getting to know all these new people. It was great because I love doing that. And I got word that a certain young lady in my class liked me. And I heard from a friend of a friend she'd like to be my girlfriend. Would I like to be her boyfriend? Well, of course. Of course. So on that beautiful afternoon, I became the boyfriend of this lovely young lady who I don't know that I'd ever spoken to. So I went home with the joy of knowing that I now have a girlfriend. And then it was the next day. And at recess, I got word that she, my girlfriend, was going out with someone else. But I was her boyfriend. She's going out with me. Wait, are you telling me this girl isn't going out with me just because I never spoke to her? She's ripped the heart out of my chest and thrown it on the ground, stomped on it and fed it to a goat? This world is not okay. So there I was, a broken-hearted 3rd grader, having this realization that the world is not perfect. Anybody been there? No, just me? Listen, for all of us, we are going to encounter things that show us that the world is not okay. For you, it might be as easy as opening up Instagram and just scrolling through and being like, whoa, this world's not okay. Maybe it's walking down the halls of your school. Maybe it's turning on the news for precisely 1 second. Whatever it is for you, at some point you're gonna have that realization too that the world's not okay. And you know what's easy? It'd be easy just to throw in the towel and be like, whatever. But for those of us who are Christians, here's the good news. We don't have to live 1 second of our lives without hope, because God saw the mess that our world was, and he said, I'm not gonna leave you alone in this. He sent Jesus. And that is what this series is all about. We call it Revive because that's what God sent Jesus to do, to revive this world and to revive us, to bring life back to the dead spots and to bring light into our darkness. That's what this is all about. And we're just gonna take these 3 weeks and look at 3 different interactions that Jesus had with real people in the book of John, which is a book of the Bible in the New Testament that tells the stories of Jesus's life. And I think you're gonna find that as we look at these 3 people who were just hopeless, they had nothing to live for. One interaction with Jesus changed all of that. We're so glad you're here to experience that with us. The first interaction that I want to talk about today comes from the book of John, chapter 4, and it's kind of an iconic story, so maybe you've heard about it before. I'm just gonna walk through it. You have to know that Jesus and his 12 disciples, these guys who followed him around everywhere, they were walking from Judea, where they had caused a ruckus. They were walking back to their home in Galilee. they decided to go through an area called Samaria. Everybody shout Samaria. Thank you. Here's what you have to know about Samaria. Jews, they didn't go to Samaria. These two groups of people, the Jews and the Samaritans, they had some long-standing issues, religious issues, racial tensions. It made it really hard for them to get along. So they just avoided it. In fact, John chapter 4 says that Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. But Jesus is not normal. So here they go through Samaria. They come upon a village and the disciples say, hey, we're hungry, we're gonna go get something to eat. And Jesus says, I'm gonna sit here by this well for a little while. It was about noon, it was very hot. He just wanted a drink. Well, before too long, one woman, came walking out of the village toward the well. This is super uncommon. People did not go to the well at noon because it's hot. It's hard work to get the water, so the people usually went early before it got hot. So they kind of congregated there and took turns helping each other get in the water. But this woman's by herself, and you better be sure that she was surprised to see Jesus there. She was even more surprised to see that he was a Jew. But she was going to get water anyway. So she goes up to the well, and Jesus said, hey, would you give me a drink of water? And she says, hey, buddy, maybe you don't know this, but you're a Jew. I'm a Samaritan. We're not supposed to be talking. But Jesus, he's not normal. He's not gonna let the culture tell him who he can't talk to or what he can't say. So he says, if you only knew the gift that God had for you and who you were talking to right now, you'd be asking me for water and I'd give you living water. Now, this lady still thinks that they're talking about liquid. And she says, well, I don't know how you do that. You don't have a bucket or a rope. And what, are you better than everybody that comes here every day with their stuff and for generations has come here with their stuff to get water? Are you really gonna try to give me water with no help? And Jesus says, listen, the people who drink this water in this well, they'll get thirsty again. But people who drink the water that I have, they'll never be thirsty again. And she still thinks we're talking about H2O. And she goes, well, then all right, give me that. That's what I want. I want as much of that as you can give me because I never want to come to this well again. And Jesus, probably getting a little bit like, okay, lady, says this, why don't you go get your husband? And this is where it gets a little bit awkward because she has to figure out how to navigate the moment. She decides to go with a partial truth. She says, I don't have a husband. And Jesus says, yeah, I know you don't. In fact, you've had 5 husbands. And the guy that you're living with right now, you're not even married to him. I just imagine in this moment, this woman losing all the color in her face, dropping her head, the pit forming in her stomach because she knows that her reputation has gotten so bad that even some random dude at the village well knows what a mess she has made in her life. And I kind of picture her just waiting for Jesus to be the next person to condemn her, to talk bad about her, to wag his finger at her and say, you're a disgrace. Your life is a mess. You need to knock all this stuff off. You're not okay. That's not what he does. Instead, he just goes on to have a really honest and genuine conversation about what it really looks like to worship God fully. And I don't know all the nuance of the conversation. I don't exactly know what changed about this woman who came to this well at noon to avoid everybody, but suddenly found the one person she had to find hope. But she was changed immediately. She leaves her bucket behind. The whole reason she came to get water, she leaves it and she runs back to her village and she tells everybody that she was avoiding. She tells them all, you've got to come to the well to hear this guy who just told me everything I've ever done. This was big news because she thought she had found the one, the Messiah, the one these people had been waiting for forever. Word spread through the village. It spread even further into the surrounding regions, and it was a huge deal because Jesus was different. He's not normal. You know, I think that we can all take something away from this interaction that Jesus has with this woman because her life was a mess. It was not okay. Whether it was because people had done things to her or she had made some choices in her life that had just created such a mess. Here's the thing that she came to Jesus with, the lack of hope. And Jesus said to her, listen, lady, you don't have to pretend. You don't have to tell me half-truths. You don't have to put on a happy face because I already know your mess. And it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay. And I wonder how many of us listening right now needed to hear that exact thing from Jesus. I wonder how many of us feel like sometimes our lives are such a mess because of what somebody has done to us or because of the choices that we've made that make our lives not so great, kind of a mess. I bet you can think of something right now that in your life just makes you feel far away from God. It makes you feel like you don't want to tell somebody else about it. You just want to keep that peace to yourself. Jesus is saying to you the same thing he said to that woman. It's okay not to be okay. That's the one thing that we share as humans. None of us have it all together. We're all this way. But Jesus also says, you just can't hide it. You just can't keep pretending. And we get pretty good at pretending, don't we? We know how to look the right part. We know how to talk the right game. We know how to make sure that our Instagram looks just flawless. We even get used to answering people's questions with half-truths just to make them think that everything is okay. This woman was the same way. And Jesus says, just stop pretending because I know already. What's God bring into your mind today? What might he want to deal with in you? Is it something that someone's done to you? And if it is, please tell somebody about it. Tell a coach, tell a parent, even if you have to do it in private. But for all of us who struggle with this thing we call sin, that's just falling short of what God has for us, man, let's share some of those struggles together. Bring them to Jesus so that he can start dealing with them. Confess them to him, and then confess them to someone else. Maybe for you tonight, you just know like you've been cheating at school. It's gotten pretty easy lately, but you know that's not good. Maybe you've been stealing something or lying to your parents. Maybe you've been going places online that you know are so not what God wants for you. Whatever it is that's making your heart feel so far away from God, hear me clearly. He is saying it's okay that you're not okay. Everybody's like that. But you got to bring it to me. So tonight, as you go to your groups, tonight as you share, would you do something honest? Would you just not hide all of the things that you're used to hiding? And would you, if you're listening to someone saying those things, would you just have the grace with them to know that you don't have it all together either? It's okay not to be okay. But do you want to know how not to stay that way? Well, you got to listen to part 2 of this series as we continue these interactions that Jesus had with real people who needed hope. We'll see you back then.